Hello, and welcome to Maryland Business Roundtable for Education's Way to Be at Home series. I'm Laurie Bell, the program coordinator for Dorchester County, and today you are on College Tell with Mrs. Bell. Today we are going to be discussing Morgan State University, so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section and we will do our best to answer them for you. I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Ms. Kia Smith. She is the Interim Director of Professional Development Schools for Morgan State University. Good morning, Kia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being with us. So you have quite a title there, the Interim Director for Professional Development Schools. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So basically, I work with the teacher education department. In that department, we have students who are majoring in elementary ed. They are undergrad students. And then we have students who are working on their master's in education. And most of those students are getting a master's of arts and teaching. And
Very good.
that So that long title basically allows me to handle the internships for everybody that comes through the program. They eventually have to be placed in a school in one of the school districts in Maryland to complete their internships and their credit hours.
So you're going to have quite a challenge this upcoming school year, aren't you?
It's a challenge, but we're going to overcome it because we will be able to handle it virtually. The school systems that we're partnering with this upcoming semester, they have a plan for virtual learning, and our students will jump right in. And if my students are in the classrooms, the Google classrooms, or whatever other platform they're using, then it will also allow me to jump in and supervise my students. So I just have to make sure I get this technology piece.
I see why you're the interim director. You've got a plan and you're ready to execute it. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Is this something you always saw yourself doing? Is this what you started out to try and do, is to be in a college and working with people wanting to become teachers?
Absolutely not. 30 some years ago, when I went off to college, I majored in political science with the intention of going to law school. And I don't know if it's because I didn't have great grades or because I really realized that law was not what I really wanted to do. I think it was a childhood dream. But I also have an older sister she's 7 years older than me. So by the time I had gone off to college, she had completed her education and started teaching. So when I graduated from college and went into corporate America for about 2 years, I'm like, this is not it. And I started substituting at the school where she taught. And the principals told me, listen, it doesn't matter if we have an opening, if teachers come every day, I still want you to come every day. So I ended up being in a school and learning from teachers for the rest of that school year. But I had no idea that I would eventually become a teacher for Baltimore City Public Schools. And that's where my heart was. It's amazing. So,
there's a very good lesson there that sometimes you think you know what you want and life throws you a curveball and you find yourself somewhere else, and it was your true calling.
It absolutely was a true calling, and I'm glad I had parents who encouraged me. Like I worked for corporate America, the same company that my mom worked for, and she was in upper management. And she said, get out now, not for a bad reason, but so that you don't feel like you're stuck and you can't leave. So she said, leave now. My dad was ecstatic. He did not finish high school. So the fact that he had one daughter that was a teacher and another one that was about to become a teacher, he was so proud, and he was like, go, be a teacher, do what you have to do. And again, teaching is really a family calling for us. It's not just me. I watched my big sister, who is now the what they call an IEP chair. So she works with special ed children and their families. So teaching Teaching is a family calling, and we're all realizing that.
How nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, teaching is a calling, and
It
now
is.
you're supervising student teachers. How did you get to where you are?
So I taught for 11 years. I went home to have my second baby and realized that no, you can't just sit home. And I started working for a program at Johns Hopkins soon after. And that was a program, middle school reading assistance program. And essentially, Hopkins was a liaison between, it was Baltimore City Schools in the state of Maryland. And I would go in and teach middle school teachers who taught science and math and history and everything but reading. I would give them reading strategies to apply during their math instruction, their science instruction. That was the grace of God. I don't even know how I got that job. It was timing and calling. And while I was there, I was able to teach their graduate reading classes. So I'm like, this is good. But the program was grant funded. It ran out of money. I ended up in a high school working with high schoolers and trying to pass the HSAs. And then Morgan, that this job was available, and not necessarily this particular job, but the coordinator position that's under the director position. And I came to Morgan 5 years ago, and that job included me going out and observing the interns during their internships in student teaching. That's the word that most people are familiar with, but that's a outdated term now. So I would get to go into the classrooms and watch them teach as they were learning from a mentor teacher, and also taught the classes that they take to prepare them for that. And I'm like, this is it. This is the job to have. And I tell my students, like you said, it's a calling. So I'm very clear. I say to my students, listen, if you are not sure you want to do this, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go messing up the baby's lives. You know, children nowadays, and it doesn't even matter what their socioeconomic status is, they have so much to contend with. So I say to my students, be sure you want to do this. So every Thursday when we have seminar, for those who are in the schools, I say to them, are you sure you still want to do this? You sure you want to teach? Because this is not a profession that you should be in if you don't love it. You cannot just like it. You got to love it.
I smiled when we said student teacher because when I went through my student teaching, that's what it was. But you're correct, and thanks for correcting me. It is interns now. But
oh, that's fine. We're telling our age.
I know we are. Okay, so now you're at Morgan State University. You've been there a while. Can you tell us a little bit about why you like being at Morgan State University?
Okay, so Morgan State, number one, it is just growing. I've been there for 5 years, and we have had 3 new buildings go up.
Wow.
In those 5 years. So if you can, anybody who's listening that's just a slight bit interested, just go and drive from southern part of Hilling Road, drive north. And as you drive north, you are going to you'll come and you'll see Morgan buildings, 2 brand new buildings within the last 5 years, like I said. And if you keep driving and you get to Cold Spring, which is our actual address, 1700 East Cold Spring, you'll see another brand new building. And now we've been off campus since March because of the pandemic, but I think they're just moving in. Like, that's how new it is. And it is beautiful. But right before that building is a library, which is not really new as, when you compare it to the other 3, but it's beautiful. And so Morgan is aesthetically pleasing, and it just feels good. it feels good to me. Now, I'm a Hampton University alum, a very proud alumni of Hampton University, but Morgan is it. If you want to be in Baltimore and you want to go to school, come to Morgan State University. Our campus is beautiful. We have new buildings. We have an amazing quad, and we are very family oriented.
Now, I was doing some reading online, and one of the things I read is that it's the largest HBCU, historically Black college and university, in the Mid-Atlantic region.
So,
So why do you think some students would choose an HBCU over a traditional school?
so what people do need to recognize is the only difference about an HBCU and a traditional school is the history of educating brown and black or African Americans, right? And so we still have the same majors. I have the list of majors from accounting to theater arts or transportation systems engineering. So we are not different because we're an HBCU, but we still have many of the majors that many other schools offer. Morgan State University is part of the Maryland State University system. But we are an HBCU because historically we educate brown and black students. But that doesn't mean that's all we have at Morgan. We have an international presence. We have Hispanic students and we have white students. And if you want to be a teacher and you want to come to a Maryland school and you want a small department where you feel like family and you will know, I think we have like 10 professors, and they'll know you, you'll know them. You'll get to call them on their phones and pester them. Morgan is the place to come for a small education department, be it brown and black students, white students, or international students. So we're just really we're like a small family. So we are the largest HBCU, but we only have, and I say only, 8,000 students approximately. So that's not a lot, but it's big enough to have a great experience and small enough to feel like a family.
Exactly. If students were looking at colleges right now, what would you tell them to look for in a college? How did you know that Hampton was the school for you, and how did you get your good feelings about Morgan? Like, can you describe what that feels like to our students?
Okay, so you said, how did I know that Hampton was the school for me? Well, number one, it wasn't in Baltimore. I'm a Baltimore girl, so I started off in Baltimore City going to elementary school, but moved to the county. And my father wanted me to go to Goucher because he wanted me in Baltimore. That wasn't happening. And at that time, Goucher was an all-girls school. And I had just graduated from an all-girls school. So that wasn't happening, Daddy. So number one, I picked the school I picked because it was away. And then number two, I chose an HBCU because it worked for me. I would like to say in the 80s, we did have we had race issues, but we still have race issues. Mm-hmm. And I needed a haven at the time. Coming from the high school that I went to, which was predominantly white, I needed to feel comfortable. I needed to not hear words that I had heard, called and didn't want to be called because of my race, nor did I want to be treated differently because of my race. I wanted to just be loved just because I was Kia. So that's why I picked the university that I picked. It was away from home, and it was an HBCU. So hopefully people who are considering Morgan will say, oh, it's away, meaning you can live in any part of the country or the state. Like you can live in Dorchester County and say, I'm going to go away to school and come to us at Morgan. We will love you. We'll take care of you. So you'll have the away feeling, but it'll be just close enough to get back home. And Morgan's tuition is affordable.
Nice.
And some people would say, well, that's an opinion, that it's affordable. But I have two daughters, one who is about to be a senior at Hampton University and one that graduated last year. And Morgan, compared to what I'm paying and did pay, Morgan is affordable. And it's still a quality education.
Exactly.
But my daughters did not want to stay home. So I was like, okay, yes, you go away. And don't tell anybody, I didn't want them home.
I won't tell a soul. You made a very interesting statement to me, and I really liked the way you said it. I wanted a place where I felt safe, that people would know me. And that's very
Absolutely.
important when you go to a school. You want people to know you and not treat you differently based on the color of your skin. And I think that's very important for our students to know. You have to have that feeling of belonging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I looked for sororities because I'm a member of a sorority. I wanted to join a sorority. They did have my major. Guys, please don't come to or go to a school that doesn't have your major and think it'll just work. If you have a passion and you already know what it is early on, then look for a school that has that. For instance, Morgan, my department is elementary ed. Unfortunately, we don't have an early childhood. And that's
Okay.
two different certifications. So if you want to major in elementary ed, yes. Early childhood, no. And you definitely want to go where you will get the coursework that certifies you. So unfortunately, Morgan would take you we would be out of the running for that. But wherever you go, find a school that has your major, at least to start with, because we all know a lot of times we change our majors.
Yes, a lot of people do, but it is important. What I've started telling students, and I've heard it from some of the people I've interviewed, find out what you don't like, and it'll lead you to what you do like.
That's a good way to look at it. And also, please, 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 don't choose a major for money.
Yes.
Right? We have students who are now education majors who started off at Morgan not majoring in education. Well, why did you decide now? Like, if well, my parents said I wasn't going to make a lot of money, or, there were, and that's so heartbreaking. Yes, teachers definitely should be paid more, but it is an honest living. It is a living that you can survive on, and you can get into other things. You don't have to stay a teacher. You can go into leadership positions. And like, if you start teaching in Maryland now, it's like $50,000. And if you're 23, you can pretty much live off of $50,000 if you manage it well and you don't have enormous debt. So please don't decide on a major based on money. If you can go to college and pay for it and get through it, go with your heart, because you're going to end up there anyway.
You did.
I did, right? I did. I don't even know what I would have done I don't know what I would have done, because I knew I wasn't going to go to law school.
I appreciate you a great deal, because I work with a lot of students that aren't quite sure what they want to do. They're between a couple of things, and hearing that you were able to change along the way is important for our students to hear. Even if you try, you have two choices and you try one that isn't the one that was supposed to be, then you go the other way. It's okay.
Absolutely. And not only that, you can change along the way when you're an undergrad or when you become my age. Like, I would love to retire from Morgan, but I also know there's this other calling for work. And I don't even think I have to leave Morgan to do it. And it may be on a volunteer basis, but it is all in the same family of advocacy for children. And so I do realize that while I wanted to be an attorney at one time, that was advocacy.
Yes.
You were standing up for somebody's rights. So now it's just, as an educator, it's just shifting. to children's rights. And when I was an elementary school teacher, it was, younger children's rights,
Mhm.
right? So now it's the older children, and I call them my babies, but they have rights, and sometimes they don't even realize that they're not taking advantage of all of their rights.
Right.
And I'm like, get what's due you, you know, ask for what you want. So I'm still advocating for students. It's just that they are older students. And sometimes the 18 to 22-year-olds, they need us just as much
Yes, they do.
as the 7 and 8-year-olds. They just
So
don't know it.
speaking of our older kids, the ones that are going to be going to college in the next few years, before we go, you've given them an awful lot of great advice. Is
Okay.
there anything left that you would want to share with them, especially with so many uncertainties with the way schools are going to be in the fall? Do you have any last advice that you would like to share with them?
I absolutely do. If you're in high school and you're worried about getting into university, number one, still apply. I do know there are grants. There's a common app, depending on where you apply, where you don't have to pay for application. Don't be deterred if you don't get into the university you want. One of the best kept secrets is community college. And when I talked about how I got to Morgan and I taught at Johns Hopkins for 5 years, I also taught at the community college, on the community college level. UB, when it was still 2 years, in Catonsville Community College in Essex. And for Essex, I taught the developmental reading classes for students coming out of high school who needed extra help.
Mm-hmm.
Take those classes. And I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that if you're not sure and if you're not a strong student, try the community college. And if there are developmental courses that you have to take that you will not get credit for, right? It won't go towards your degree. Take those at the community college. It is okay. And let me tell you, I'm not just saying that. I actually went to community college. So I am a Hampton alum and I did 4 years at Hampton. But once I decided that I wanted to be a teacher, I was told you need 54 credits to become a certified teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So paying for, well, thankfully my parents paid for undergrad, but I was thinking, well, I'm not going to go into debt to pay for half of a degree. So I went to the community college and took the science courses that I didn't have to take in undergrad. I had to take art and music. I didn't have to take an undergrad because that wasn't what the poli-sci needed. So the community college, I took like 24 credits at the community college because I needed them for certification. But then I did say, well, let me just go and get my master's to make up the other 30 hours, and I received a master's. So here's what I'm really trying to say. If the goal is a degree, it doesn't look the same for everybody. There are options, and don't let anybody tell you it's one way. If money is an issue, Morgan, we happily accept students from the community college, right? So we want you at Morgan if it's a good fit for you, but please, 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 please don't sit out. If you can't afford it, take one class at the community college. Figure out your niche, or if you have to take the remedial courses. So don't let anything deter you. Apply for the grants, the Pell grants, apply for financial aid. I do not recommend private loans. And this is personal. I have, having gone through it and still in the process with my children, don't let anything deter you from getting your college degree, but just know that everybody has a different path. And if God wanted us all to have the same path, he would have just made us all one person. And we already know that with our DNA and our thumbprint, we know we're not one.
That is excellent advice for everybody to know that everybody's path is different. Just keep plugging along on your path and get to where you're going, and you'll be very successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Thank
Keith,
you.
I would like to thank you so much for being with us today. You've shared so much great wisdom and information with our students. I'm sure they will definitely value what you've had to say today. I would like to thank everybody for being with Maryland Business Roundtable for Education today with our program. And I would like to remind you to download our app on all of the app stores. And we will be seeing you soon on Wednesday. We are going to be talking to people from Cintas, which is a new corporation, a top 500 Fortune 500 company. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.